You're doing everything right. You're fasting. You're walking. You're sleeping 7 or 8 hours. You're eating clean. And something still feels off. Your energy isn't where it should be. Your sleep isn't as deep as it used to be. Your stress feels harder to manage. Your muscles cramp at night. And fat loss has slowed down, even though nothing obvious changed. Most people spend months trying to figure out what's wrong. They change their diet. They add supplements. They try different protocols. And nothing moves the needle, because the real problem is invisible. It doesn't show up on a standard blood test, and almost no doctor will think to check for it. It's magnesium deficiency, and it is quietly making everything harder. But first, I need to tell you something that changes how you think about minerals completely. Most people think about magnesium the way they think about vitamins, something that helps with one or two specific things, maybe sleep, maybe muscle cramps. But magnesium is not a single-function nutrient. It is a master cofactor. It is required for over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body, including energy production, protein synthesis, muscle and nerve function, blood glucose control, and blood pressure regulation. And here is the number that should stop you cold. Studies estimate that up to 50% of Americans are not getting adequate magnesium from their diet. 1 in 2 people. Walking around with a system that is running at reduced capacity across 300 biological processes simultaneously. Not sick enough to feel obviously unwell, but not well enough to feel genuinely good. Just slightly off, slightly tired, slightly inflamed, slightly stuck, and completely unaware that a single mineral deficiency is the thread connecting all of it. Here's what magnesium deficiency actually does to your body, and this is where it gets genuinely eye-opening. The first system it disrupts is sleep. Magnesium activates GABA, the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in your brain. GABA is what slows your brain activity down at night and allows you to transition from wakefulness into deep, slow-wave sleep. Without adequate magnesium, GABA function is impaired. Your brain stays in a slightly activated state even when you're trying to sleep. You fall asleep, but never fully descend into deep, restorative sleep. You wake up feeling unrefreshed. You might not connect this to magnesium because it doesn't feel like insomnia. It feels like poor quality sleep without an obvious cause. Research published in 2025 in the Journal of Sleep Research confirmed that adults with low magnesium status spent significantly less time in slow-wave sleep and reported higher rates of non-restorative sleep compared to those with adequate magnesium, even when total sleep hours were identical. The second system is cortisol regulation. Magnesium plays a direct role in regulating your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the system that controls cortisol production. When magnesium is low, the HPA axis becomes hyperreactive. Cortisol responses to everyday stressors become disproportionately large. Small triggers produce large cortisol spikes, and chronically elevated cortisol, as we have covered in previous videos, directly drives visceral fat accumulation, blocks fat burning, suppresses growth hormone, and disrupts sleep. Low magnesium creates a cortisol amplification effect that makes every other health challenge significantly harder to overcome. A 2025 review in Nutrients confirmed that magnesium supplementation reduced cortisol reactivity by up to 23% in adults with suboptimal magnesium status, 23% less cortisol from the same stressors. That is not a small shift. The third system is insulin sensitivity and blood sugar regulation. Magnesium is required for the proper function of insulin receptors on your cells. When magnesium is low, your cells become less responsive to insulin, even when insulin levels are normal. This is a form of insulin resistance that has nothing to do with diet or exercise. It is a direct consequence of mineral deficiency. And insulin resistance, even mild subclinical insulin resistance, means your body spends more time in fat storage mode and less time in fat burning mode. It means your fasting protocol is working against a biological headwind that no amount of willpower can overcome. Research published in Diabetes Care in 2025 confirmed that adults with low dietary magnesium intake had a 71% higher risk of developing insulin resistance compared to those with adequate intake, 71%, from a single mineral. And now, the twist that explains why this problem is so widespread and so consistently missed. Magnesium deficiency is almost impossible to detect with a standard blood test. Here is why. Only about 1% of your body's total magnesium is in your blood. The other 99% is stored in your bones, muscles, and soft tissue. When your dietary magnesium intake is low, your body pulls magnesium from those stores to maintain blood levels within a normal range, which means your blood test can show normal magnesium while your cells, muscles, and nervous system are operating in a significant deficit. The only accurate test is a red blood cell magnesium test, RBC magnesium, which measures magnesium inside cells rather than in serum. Most standard panels don't include it, most doctors don't order it, and most people with clinically significant magnesium deficiency walk out of their annual physical with a normal result and no answers. Now here's the additional layer that explains why this problem accelerates after 40. Several factors that increase dramatically in midlife also deplete magnesium. Chronic stress depletes magnesium because your adrenal glands use magnesium to produce cortisol. The more stressed you are, the more magnesium you burn through. Poor sleep depletes magnesium. Alcohol depletes magnesium. High sugar diets deplete magnesium. And certain common medications, including proton pump inhibitors for acid reflux, diuretics for blood pressure, and some diabetes medications, actively block magnesium absorption. The result is that most people over 40 are simultaneously consuming less magnesium from their diet than they need and losing more magnesium through stress, poor sleep, and medication than their intake can replace. The deficit compounds quietly until the symptoms become impossible to ignore. And now, the final twist, the one that reframes everything. Magnesium deficiency doesn't feel like one thing. It feels like everything being slightly harder than it should be. Sleep that isn't restorative, energy that never quite peaks, stress that feels bigger than it used to, fat loss that stalls for no obvious reason, muscles that cramp and twitch, a brain that feels slower than it did a decade ago. These symptoms don't point obviously to a mineral deficiency. They point to aging, to burnout, to stress, to needing to try harder. But trying harder without addressing the magnesium deficit is like trying to run faster with a flat tire. The effort is real. The results don't follow. Fix the tire first. Here's your magnesium protocol starting tonight. The right form matters enormously. Magnesium oxide has very poor absorption and is essentially useless. The forms that work are magnesium glycinate for sleep and stress, magnesium malate for energy and muscle recovery, and magnesium L-threonate for cognitive support and brain health. Start with magnesium glycinate, 300 to 400 milligrams taken 30 to 60 minutes before sleep. Give it 2 weeks. Track your sleep quality, your morning energy, and your stress response. And ask your doctor to run an RBC magnesium test at your next blood panel, not a standard serum magnesium. That single test will tell you more about your true magnesium status than any standard panel ever could. Drop a comment right now and tell me, have you ever tried magnesium before sleep? I want to know what you noticed. And if this video connected dots that have been bothering you for a long time, subscribe.